Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Happy Saturday. Can everyone hear me okay? I am using a different mic, so I hope that everyone can hear me no problem. Maybe I'll just ask you in the chat. Can you hear me okay? Okay, thanks, Jocelyn. That's great. Okay, thank you for confirming that. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. Today we're going to talk about LinkedIn. Thanks, Nigel. Particularly about what recruiters like to see on your LinkedIn profile. So if you follow me on Twitter, as I know Nigel does, then you know that I like to hang around recruiters a lot. And I like to get their take on what they like to see in resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn. And I ask them a lot of questions because, you know, I know what works from my side, but I also like to know what they like to see and what plays into their decision making in terms of inviting someone for an interview or not, or putting a candidate forward or a job seeker forward in their presentation to their client as you want to talk to this person. So this week I really asked them a lot about LinkedIn. I haven't talked much about LinkedIn lately, and I thought it was time. So I'm going to talk about some of the feedback that they provided in terms of what they love to see in a LinkedIn profile. A lot of it was not surprising, but some of it was, and I'll tell you what surprised me a little bit. And then I'll tell you about how it works in terms of what that would actually look like on your profile. So really, I'm going to start from head to toe, or I'm going to work head to toe on the profile. So I'm going to start at your headline, and then I'm going to work my way down and talk to you about how that should look to really stand out to recruiters on LinkedIn. So regarding your headline, what you really want to do with your headline is tell recruiters exactly what you do. So one recruiter that I was chatting with on Twitter said that oftentimes he comes across profiles where he has no idea what the professional actually does, because a lot of people try and sound cute and funny. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. Sound cute and funny and use language that doesn't really make sense and isn't very searchable. So some common offenders are like guru, ninja, whisperer. Those are really useless terms that a recruiter doesn't want to see, and they can't make heads or tails of it. They don't know what it actually means. So when you are writing your headline, you want to make it very clear what you do. And you also don't want to use your headline to just jam a bunch of keywords. You do want to use keywords for searchability purposes, but use them strategically. And so I'm going to tell you about my formula for headlines that I really like to use and seems to work quite well. So when I'm writing headlines on LinkedIn, what I like to do is start with naming the target role or the role in which my clients are operating. And then I follow it up with the main solution that they create. And that's where I weave in some keywords. So let's say you're a project manager. I'm going to use project manager as the example because a lot of project managers out there, and I work with a lot, and it's just easy for me. So if I was writing a headline for a project manager, I might write something like project manager at the front of the headline, or like digital project manager, or define the type of project manager, and then follow it up with the main solution they create or the main value that they bring to the table. So could be something like ensuring tech projects are delivered on time, on budget, and to client specifications or to client requirements. So we're hitting a few different keywords. Obviously, we've hit project manager, we've hit project again, we've hit budget, we've hit on time, and we've hit client requirements or client specifications. So there's a variety of keywords in that headline without just jamming them in there. So it's sounding a lot more human rather than just listing keywords. So again, the formula that I propose is very clearly defining what your role is, and then follow it up with the main solution or the main value that you bring to the table. And that's where you can add some more keywords. Now, just a hint, if you're editing your headline on the desktop version of LinkedIn, you get 120 characters. That's not a lot. That's maybe a sentence. But if you upload it, edit it using the LinkedIn app, you get 200 characters, I believe, approximately. So if you look at my headline on LinkedIn, it's quite long. That's because I wrote it using the app. And so I was able to get 80 more characters for myself. So I would recommend editing or inputting your headline on your LinkedIn app on your phone. Okay. And if you have any questions as we're going through, please let me know in the chat. If they're related to what I'm talking about, I'll answer them right off the top. If there's something that I'll get back to, I'll let you know. Okay, so let's talk about the summary. So this was a little surprising to me when I was chatting with the recruiters. No one really talked about the summary. That didn't seem like a big or important thing for recruiters, which when I think about it a little makes sense. To them, they don't really have the time to read in depth about you. They want to make sure you're qualified, that you're well qualified for the job. So the most important thing is that they find you first, and that's where the headline comes in, as well as other keywords throughout your profile. But the summary, I don't think they're stopping there. That said, you're not writing your LinkedIn profile only for recruiters. You are writing it for other people in your network. You're writing it for hiring managers. You're writing it for many different reasons. So don't skip the summary. The recruiters don't seem to really need it, but don't skip it because it is a big chunk of your profile where you can tell a lot of your story. Hi, Melissa. So you can tell a lot of your story there. And I recommend that you do. So things like that you could touch on in your summary are things like, what are you known for? Like what type of reputation have you built for yourself professionally? What are some of the highlights that you have across your entire career? You could pick some of the best ones and just draw attention to them. What drives you in your career? Like what motivates you? Why do you do what you do? And if you're making a career transition or pivot, addressing where you're coming from, where you're going to, and why you want to make that pivot. That's really important as well, I would say. So really use that summary to your advantage. You now get 2,600 characters there, and that is a lot of space. Like that's like over a page of text. So use it to your advantage. Tell the reader what you want them to know about you. You can address any really unique aspects of your career. Yes, the about section. Yes. So I don't know what it's labeled as anymore. Sometimes I see summary, sometimes I see about, but yes, the about or summary section. Yes. So you get 2,600 characters. You used to get 2,000. So 600 more, that's a lot. So you can really take advantage of that from a personal branding perspective. Okay, so let's talk about, sorry, I keep hitting this new mic. I guess I'm not used to it. I hope I'm not making your ears hurt. Okay, so the experience section. This is really the most important part of the profile from a recruiter standpoint, as I could tell, which makes sense. So first, I'll tell you what didn't surprise me about their feedback. They want to know what jobs you've held and how long you've held them and where you've held them. So being very clear about those jobs, naming those titles in your profile, not skipping over anything unless it's like super early career, but that's a totally different strategy and topic that I can talk about a different time. Yeah, and they want to know the context in which you worked. So the setting in which you worked. So that was interesting to hear. It didn't really surprise me. But what that really translates into in my mind is to really provide kind of a single sentence that describes the working environment in terms of like the type of stakeholders that you may have worked with, the type of clients that you may have worked with, the type of company that it was, how big the company was, like was it a small, medium-sized business or was it a large global enterprise? So just giving them a little taste of what your working environment actually looked like. This didn't surprise me either. Recruiters don't want to see like a big, long, generic, copy-pasted job description in the description field of each of your roles. It's just boring, doesn't tell them anything. Instead, what they do want to see are accomplishments, obviously. They want to see some highlights of the great work that you've done. So here are some surprises for me. One recruiter mentioned that they like to be teased almost with accomplishments, like just give them a taste, and then they can ask you about the how you achieved those accomplishments later on, like kind of a conversation opener. The reason I don't really like that approach is because it doesn't give context to how you actually achieved something. And I would just offer that up because while that recruiter likes getting that little taste, like a little nibble of what your accomplishment was, and intends to ask you more afterwards, I'm not sure that every recruiter will do the same thing. So I would offer that context, like how you achieved the results you achieved, the action you took to get there. I would include all of that in that description field under each of your roles. No. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Najwa. No, you don't leave accomplishment details just on the resume. But what I would say is that if you have anything confidential, like a client name or very specific numbers that are confidential, that you generalize those or leave those off, or kind of speak to them a bit indirectly, because LinkedIn is a very public place. And so you do have to be careful about the details that you're providing, but you are definitely welcome to include accomplishments on your LinkedIn. Jocelyn, is it okay to mention that you received an internal promotion in the experience section? Absolutely, but Jocelyn, I would make sure that that is represented as its own role. Because that is an actual job in and of itself, even though it's internal. So I would make sure that you're separating that out as its own role, so that that shows very clearly to the reader that you had some progression. Great question. So accomplishments, I recommend, again, providing the result itself while keeping what needs to be kept confidential, and then providing the context, the action for how you got there. Nigel, how similar should your LinkedIn experience be to your CV work experience? So there's going to be some shared details, absolutely. The big difference between LinkedIn and CV or resume, as I see it, is that on your LinkedIn, you want to be using I statements. So I did this, or leveraging my skills in blah, blah, blah. I was able to achieve this or that. The reason we want to use I statements in the LinkedIn is it provides for a much warmer tone, warmer, engaging, approachable tone on our LinkedIn, which is, again, LinkedIn and resume are different in that sense. And so that's what I would go for. So there's going to be, again, some shared aspects, but you don't want it to sound like a regurgitation of your resume. Okay, so another thing that surprised me, because I don't see this as a really important detail typically, but a couple of recruiters mentioned that they want to see number of years experience with like a particular tech tool. That was interesting to me, but I guess that makes sense because in job postings, you'll see something like 4 years experience, the requirement of 4 years experience with cloud or whatever. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. I don't really like to stress numbers of years of experience with anything because years experience does not directly correlate to skill level or competence. So you can go ahead and talk about years experience if you want, but I would combine it with an accomplishment to really back that up or reinforce that. So for example, with my 5 years work experience using Microsoft Project, I've successfully managed 20 technical projects to date with a success rate of 99% or whatever. So you're weaving in those details on number of years experience with particular tools, but again, you're reinforcing it. You're kind of anchoring it in an actual accomplishment, so it has more relevance. Okay, all right. So let's talk about the skills section. This is also very important from the recruiter's perspective. So in the skills section, you get 50 skills. So you really can use those to your advantage. But one recruiter mentioned that you really don't want to claim skills that you don't actually have. Like if you're not skilled in it, don't name it. But what I've seen a lot of in skills sections on LinkedIn is they're an often overlooked section that a lot of profile owners don't really take a look at, scrutinize, audit on a consistent basis. And back in the day, if you were an early adopter of LinkedIn, LinkedIn wasn't so smart with digesting your resume and then actually properly identifying skills. So I've seen some really bizarre skills on LinkedIn profiles. So I really urge you, like if you have time today, I really urge you to go and take a look at your skills section of your profile to make sure that the skills are formatted like actual skills, that the skills are reflective of the skill set you need for where you're headed now, and that there's no spelling errors or anything like that. And I would really start deleting skills that aren't relevant to where you're going, and even skills that are endorsed. Just because something is endorsed doesn't mean it's worth keeping. So, and an example of making sure that your skills are actual proper skills, real skills that are that would be searched by a recruiter. An example of a skill that's not a proper skill would be like people skills. I saw that the other day, people skills. What does that mean? Does that mean leadership? Does that mean relationship management or relationship building? Does that mean account management? Does that mean client services? That could mean so many different things. So you got to be very specific about what it is, and include it so long as it's related to where you're headed for your next role. Another thing that a recruiter mentioned is you really want to cover off all your bases in terms of skills. So a really great example he gave was, let's say that you have experience in AWS. So Amazon Web Services, right? That is Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud service. So name that as a skill for sure. Include that skill, but also include cloud technology as a skill as well. So you're covering off the very specific skill of AWS, but you're also covering off the umbrella skill of cloud services. So you're hitting both potential search options or both potential ways a recruiter might search you. So I thought that was really good advice. Okay, so let's talk about education and certifications. So we're continuing to work our way down our profile. So education and certifications. Recruiters are checking the section. So make sure that your education and certifications are up to date. Do not include any certifications that are no longer active, or if they are no longer active and you want to name them, make sure that you put the expiration date on them. I just want to clear something up. I'm noticing a lot of confusion across various profiles between certificate versus certification. So a certificate is something you earn after you complete a course or a program, potentially, depending on the level of the course or program. But certification is an accreditation. It is often letters that you can add after your name. Those take a lot more work. They often require professional hours to qualify for those certifications. So when you're allocating certificates and certifications on your profile, make sure that certifications are true certifications if you're including it in that section. So it's certifications and licenses, or licenses and certifications is the section name. And then for education, like a certificate in something, that lives in your education section. Okay. All right. And a couple more things that recruiters are taking a look at. They mentioned they are looking at the content that you're posting. They are looking at how you're commenting on posts. They are looking at what you're liking and what you're actually writing. And they are very turned off by, as I'm sure you've seen in your travels on LinkedIn, they're very turned off by those types of people who are very bitter or hostile, that shows up on your profile. That's public. People can see that stuff. So you got to be very careful about the content that you are writing and how you're commenting on LinkedIn. They're not expecting you to be a thought leader by any means, but just make sure that you're being thoughtful in the content that you're engaging with and how you're engaging on LinkedIn. And finally, recommendations. So I was very happy to learn that many recruiters are reading your recommendations. This was exciting for me because recommendations is such an important section of your profile and it is so often neglected. So I'm so passionate about recommendations on LinkedIn. This coming week, I will be publishing a video about LinkedIn recommendations. They're super important and such an untapped gold mine of basically you're getting other people to brag about you. That's what it comes down to. You're getting other people to attest to how great you are. It's social proof and it's awesome. It's very valuable. So they are reading your recommendations. So make sure that you are asking for recommendations, that you're giving recommendations. This is such an important part of your profile. Okay, that's really all I wanted to cover on LinkedIn from my conversation with recruiters. So I am happy to take any questions that you have. And Jocelyn, do we need to address a career gap on our LinkedIn profile? I tend not to because that would require us to, no, that's not true necessarily. So I don't encourage you to create a fake job that addresses a career gap. So like job searching, 2002 to 2003. I don't recommend doing that. That just really draws attention to it. I would recommend, let's say, if you were laid off due to COVID, or if you were laid off due to an organizational-wide restructuring, that you can go ahead and mention that in the description field within that job, and just say that, just to clarify your departure, that you were let go due to COVID-19 layoffs or what have you. But I would not, like I said, I would not create a fake job or a dummy job to clarify the gap in your employment. Okay. What other questions can I answer for everyone? Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Jocelyn. Yeah, LinkedIn is so important. It's becoming increasingly more important in your job search. You need to keep it as up to date as your resume. You want to make sure that everything is consistent across both your resume and your LinkedIn. Can you include volunteer activities? Lourdes, yes, absolutely. There is a section for volunteering on your LinkedIn. Yes, there is. Are you possibly asking about including volunteer activities to satisfy a career gap? Let me know if you have a follow-up question on that. Melissa, where do you add professional organizations and volunteering you do with them? Can't figure out how to add the organizations. Okay, so I would do two things. So if you're a member of the organization, there's a section called organizations, and I would include your membership in the organization, it's presuming you are a member of it, but the volunteering you can add in the volunteering section. So back when Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, they did a whole bunch of development that really made their platform confusing. And so what you need to do is look to the top of your profile, and there's a blue button that says add profile section, I think it is. Click on that, and you have to go through. There's really it's not intuitive how they did it. So you need to go through kind of each of the subcategories to find where organizations live and how you can add those. So basically, once you reveal organizations and you hit on the plus sign to add them and to actually add the section, And then also throughout there, I think it's in the accomplishments subcategory in that drop down add profile section drop down menu. I think it's accomplishments where you can add, click on the plus sign for volunteering. Again, it's really not intuitive. You're going to need to do some clicking around. It's kind of a pain, but that's where you start to add new sections to your profile. Let me know if you have follow-up questions to that. Nigel, is it possible to add documents to a profile? Do you think this is a good thing? Is it worth attaching your resume to your profile? Nigel, I don't recommend, okay, first of all, yes, you can attach documents to your profile. In fact, there's a great featured section that LinkedIn added. This is actually development that I like. So they added a featured section or a features section, which lives, I believe it lives right under your city. Or it could be right under your about/summary section. If you go to my profile, you can see that I've featured a few different videos there, but instead of videos or other content, you can post documents. That said, I do not recommend posting your resume on LinkedIn because of how public LinkedIn is and the fact that your resume is a confidential document. When you post your resume directly on LinkedIn, that's opening you up to plagiarism. So I don't want you exposed to that, as in people swiping your stuff. So do not post your resume on LinkedIn, please. William, at what point after leaving your job do you enter the end date if there is a gap? 30 days, 60 days immediately after leaving? I mean, I would end it as soon as you leave. But that's because I really stress transparency. I've heard from other people not to, but I really recommend changing the end date when you leave. I mean, you don't have to be like, oh, this is my last day. I got to update my LinkedIn profile. If a few days pass or a couple weeks pass before you update your end date, that's fine. But I wouldn't stretch it out and make it seem like you're still there when you're not actually there. That would feel misleading. Vinay, is it okay to put a part-time job like working at Walmart, which is not related to my previous? Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely do include other jobs that you have taken. So these might be called bridge jobs. Anything to make ends meet is worth putting on your profile. You don't need to say a lot about it, but it is appreciated when recruiters or hiring managers can see that you did what you needed to do to keep going. So yeah, absolutely put the unrelated jobs there. You just don't need to say a lot. Okay, Alexandra, did you ask about showing as currently employed? It used to be that if you didn't show a current role, you'd be ruled out by recruiters immediately. Not sure if that bias has shifted. I can't speak to that, but that's a good question. I would doubt very much that they're doing that. That would narrow their search pool so much. It would be incredibly negative. I think what you're talking about is it would take you out of all-star status, which it would, but I don't think that that's particularly important in terms of how recruiters are actually searching. Melissa, yes, I am a member of the professional organization. Thank you. Okay, great. Alexandra, attaching projects. One company I work for has some product videos on YouTube that I've included links in the relevant experience section. Great idea. Najwa, what if you're no longer working in the industry where you're looking for a job due to organizational restructuring, but currently you have a non-related job? Do you put your not? Yes. So further to what Vinay was saying, yes, put your non-related job. Absolutely. Still put it, but make sure that everything else very clearly shows where you're headed. That's another important thing about LinkedIn resumes is you need to tell the reader where you fit. basically. It's not their job to make any sorts of interpretations as to where you fit in their organization. You need to tell them and be very direct and clear about it. Lourdes, how do you do updates without reflecting it as a change until all changes are all done? Thank you. This is very... Okay, so first of all, in your privacy and settings section, you can turn off broadcast notifications, although I think LinkedIn has really scaled back on what it broadcasts out. I believe it's only present jobs, like active jobs, that they broadcast out. So make sure that you aren't, or that you have toggled that off. You don't want to notify your network. But the only way to not update your profile while updating it is to do all of the updates at once. That's the only way to do it. It will reveal the changes after you hit save. So just be very certain you want to make the updates. Great. Okay. Those are great questions. Loved it. What other questions can I answer for you? Yeah, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is you can have a lot of fun with LinkedIn, but you used to be able to have more fun with it because there was more flexibility. Now there's so many different restrictions, unfortunately. But I get what they're doing. They want to make sure that everybody has a. Oops, I almost lost my light. They want to make sure that everybody has a consistent user experience. So I get it. Anyway, any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for joining me, everyone. And yeah, if you ever want to see what recruiters are saying on Twitter, definitely search for the hashtag recruiter Twitter. There's lots of good stuff being discussed there. Lots of great details and a peek behind the curtain in terms of how recruiters actually do their jobs. And also a really great channel that I'd like to recommend, another YouTube channel, is Amy Miller's YouTube channel. She is a recruiter, and she offers a lot of really interesting insights into how recruiting works. Her last video from yesterday, she posts videos Amy Miller. So just search her on YouTube. And Najwa, you spelled it correctly, Amy Miller, or Recruiting in Yoga Pants. So every Friday she posts a video. And this last Friday, so yesterday, she posted a video on something called a cooling off period. And that was a new one for me. I wasn't aware of that. So basically, a cooling off period is just quickly, a cooling off period is usually used by like larger companies like a Google, where if someone has interviewed but they were rejected for a job, they have to wait a prescribed period of time before they would reconsider you for other opportunities in the company. It's a policy thing, but also it gives you time as the candidate to develop more skills. So yeah, definitely check out her videos. They're really, really great. And I've personally learned a lot from her. So Amy Miller, Recruiting in Yoga Pants, videos every Friday. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. And I will see you next Saturday. Have a great Saturday and a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.